Welcome to the Carver Candidates Night on Area 58 Community Access Media. My name is Catherine Gallerani. I'm from the Carver Reporter and Wicked Local Carver, and I'm here with two of the candidates for the Board of Selectmen, Sarah Hewins and Mark Townsend. Unfortunately, Cornelia Shea could not be here tonight, but we're here to get to know each other, the candidates, better. So welcome.
Thank you.
We will start with opening statements. Sarah?
Thank you, Kathy. I'm Sarah Hewins, and I'm running for re-election as your selectman here in Carver. I've been your selectman for the past 9 years, and I was your conservation agent for 15 years. I was also an elected member of the planning board for 10 years. Currently, I also serve on the board of directors at the South Shore Community Action Council, a nonprofit organization that provides vital services to low-income families and seniors. I'm a co-founder and the former volunteer executive director of the Young People's Alliance of Carver, otherwise known as YPAC, a nonprofit after-school program for Carver's youth that involves the whole community with a goal of drug abuse prevention and a focus on learning life skills. I'm also currently the volunteer reader for the Tuesday Toddler Story Hour at our public library, and have been for the past 22 years. I'm the chair of the Municipal Playground Committee that built Carver's first community playground, and I wrote the successful Community Preservation Fund grant to upgrade that playground in 2016. As your selectman, I obtained $2 million in Community Preservation Act funds to build new recreational fields at the new elementary school. I voted to use tax revenue from new solar projects to lower costs to taxpayers of that new school. I spearheaded residential curbside trash and recycling pickup at 50% off the going price. I helped to lower the water rate for seniors in one of our manufactured home communities, and I saved 34% on our town's streetlight bill by negotiating the purchase of our streetlights for $1 from NSTAR. And I helped to reduce the town's energy bill by 11% by negotiating for 25% of the town's energy from solar power. As your conservation agent, I helped to obtain over $2 million in grants for land preservation and outdoor recreation for Carver, and protected over 600 acres of land from tax-negative development. I also served as chair and Carver delegate to the Plymouth Carver Aquifer Advisory Committee, a regional committee made up of 7 towns that provided education and information to the public about our 500 billion gallon sole source supply of fresh drinking water. As a planning board member, I had a 100% success rate in permitting appropriate businesses to broaden our tax base, and spearheaded zoning requirements for affordable homes in many new developments. There's still a lot to do in Carver. We need a new police station that our police department desperately needs and certainly deserves. We need a feasibility study for a new council on aging that our seniors need and absolutely deserve. This town is very important to me. You are very important to me. And that's why I've kept every promise I made as a public official. And that's why I'm asking for your vote on Saturday, April 28th, from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Carver Middle High School. Thank you.
And Mark.
Thanks, Catherine. Hi, my name is Mark Townsend. I'm also running for selectman here in Carver. My wife Maureen and I have lived in Carver since 1984. We've raised our 4 children here. We both love this town, and I'm running for selectman because I want to be part of a team that is forward-looking and focused. I believe I have the experience to help the town deal with the many challenges it faces. I'm currently a member of the Carver Finance Committee and was elected by those members as its vice chairman. I'm also a member of the Carver Housing Authority, a member of the Carver Knights of Columbus. I've been active in multiple Carver youth sports leagues and was part of the original group with Sarah that helped build the Carver playground next to the library. I have also run my own business, an insurance agency, since 1991. I know what it's like to meet deadlines, to balance budgets, and to work cooperatively with others to get things done. I believe these are all skills that will serve me well on the Board of Selectmen. Carver faces a number of challenges. We are a small town with a limited amount of commercial development. That means that the residents bear a large portion of the tax burden. On the Finance Committee, I have been a supporter of those town fiscal policies put in place during the last few years. Those policies have enabled us to build the new Carver Elementary School and the new fire station, as well as to put a plan in place for the new police station, with only the school requiring a debt exclusion. One of my priorities on the boards will be to continue those sound financial policies. Once again, my name is Mark Townsend, and I also ask for your vote on April 28th. Thank you.
Lynn Doyle, the town clerk, would be angry with me if I didn't mention when the election is, so we should mention that. It is Saturday, April 28th. The polls open at 8 a.m. and close at 6 in the Carver High Gymnasium. About the financial management policies, you say they've been successful. Do you see any reason to change them? How would you alter them?
I think they've been successful for the most part. They've certainly helped us with our new building policies. I think there are few towns that you can look at that have been able to build a police station or will build a police station within the levy limit, that built the fire department within the levy limit. I think we managed the new school. It was a debt exclusion, but it was a relatively moderate debt exclusion. So I think they've been successful. They've also been very forward-looking, so we have an idea of what's coming, and I think that's important. Would it change things? I think at some point we may get to the point where we can put a little less money into the stabilization fund and put a little more money into the town operating budgets. I think that would be a goal. But I think for the most part they've been successful, yes.
And Sarah, how about you?
Thank you, Catherine. Yes, I think they have been successful. When we first established them, my greatest concern, however, was that the amount that was being put away at the time, because obviously that, as Mark mentioned, that does take away from other departments, and there's only so much money to go around. I do believe that at some point it's always good to save, there's no question about that, but I believe at some point probably we're going to need not to save quite as much as we are now, because there are so many strapped departments in town. And but I think for the time being it has saved us a lot of money. We've only had to do the one debt exclusion. So in that particular sense, yes, I agree.
Well, in the recent days, we've had a lot of controversy over the addition to the library for Council on Aging, and it looks like the selectmen will be forming a study committee, and so it sounds like you both support that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
As for the police station, how do you feel about the process the town is following with that? And do you have ideas of where you want the police station?
I think I mentioned this a couple of times. When we built the playground, it's a 13-acre parcel, more or less 13 acres. It doesn't, because of the trees that are there, you can't see all the available land. But when we went to build the playground, there was a lot of talk at the time, actually, of doing a new police station at the same site. And so I asked the engineers for our committee to please show us if there was a place where a police station could go, or a building, of a typical police station size. It wasn't an architectural, it was an engineer. So they showed a 12,000 square foot building with 30 parking spaces. And it's north of the playground, wouldn't affect the playground at all. So there are places it could go where it's going, where the old fire station is and police station now. There's that spot up above the playground. Those are the two that I can think of that are centrally located. But there's a police station building study committee, and we're going to let them figure it out.
So you like the way the process is going?
Yes. And the first part of that feasibility study really has been done. It was a kind of an assessment of the department and needs, and we've proven now that there's a need. We all knew this, but we had to do the study, which is the way it should be.
And Mark, what do you think?
I agree with Sarah on many of the points. Where it would go, I wonder personally if we're better off having the police station somewhere on Route 58. I like the idea of the police station being located on the main road. But again, that's why we have a committee to investigate these things, and I'm hopeful that they'll reach out to folks who know a little bit more about the proper siting of a police station than I may. But I think the process has gone pretty well both so far, and I agree with Sarah. Certainly the need is there, and I think I think it's been successful so far.
And a town meeting is going to have a vote on some funding for that. Do you think that funding is sufficient for the project?
Well, I think it's more sufficient now than it was originally. I wonder if the original $4 million amount was enough. Personally, I think now that it's gone, I believe, to 4.9, I think that's better. Plus, the capital outlay has an additional, I believe, $500,000 in their budget if it should go over. So I think the funding is more adequate now than it was. Is it enough to build a police station? Well, I'm hopeful it will be. I think just like the fire station, if it falls a little bit short and they have to come back, I'd prefer that they come back to town meeting next year, and if we have to appropriate another couple of $100,000, then we'll do that. I think the key thing is that we build the police station appropriately, we site it appropriately, and we build it right the first time. And if it takes a little bit more money to do that, I'd like to work to find the money in the budget to do that. I think it's important to get it done right.
And Sarah, I think you've expressed some concern about that.
I have, yes. There was a study done, and I believe it was 2010, where there was a police and fire station study. They looked at them together, and I believe at that time the price was roughly $6 million. I could be a little off on that. So my concern, is prices don't usually go down. But that's why I mentioned to Chief Dufley, I want him to hold the selectmen's feet to the fire on that. And if he needs to come back, then that's what needs to happen, because they need it done right.
And if I could just add, we did exactly the same thing when we spoke to the chief with the finance committee about that article. And I think we're both in agreement that the key thing here is to do it right and not be sitting here 5 years from now wishing we had done something a little bit different. So,
do you think that was the whole point with the concerns about the Council on Aging, where it should go? And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think one of the issues with the Council on Aging, and I wasn't involved in the process of the planning that went into the addition to the library, but it strikes me that maybe we should have gotten more input from folks who actually use the Council on Aging. And maybe if we had originally, we could have avoided all the turmoil that surrounded the addition to the library. Should it go there? I think that's what a feasibility study would have shown. And I think it would have helped to do that study. And I look forward, if I'm fortunate enough to win a seat in the board, I look forward to maybe helping to get a few more people from the COA included in that group, so we can get input from those folks.
And Sarah?
So the first part one of the police station feasibility study actually included a survey of police officers who are going to be using the building. And I think, as Mark pointed out, I think it's very important not just to survey those who currently use the COA, but to maybe do a townwide survey for people over a certain age who may not be going there for who knows what reason, and see what they express, as being what they'd like to see. I did have some concerns, obviously. There's a septic system in the parking lot, there are water lines, all of that costs money. When there are big meetings at the library, some organization or something is meeting there, it's hard to find parking just now. So, I mean, at any rate, I had tried to make a motion at the last Selectmens meeting to do a feasibility study, because there's even land behind the EMS building. Again, there's the land above, north of the playground. The site that the current COA is on is about 4 acres. So conceivably, one could be built down there, not on the old house, but elsewhere. I mean, when we did the elementary school, that's what happened. We did a study that said, okay, here are the choices. We can, redo our old school. That was choice one. We could build a new one on the same site. We could build one down at the high school. Let's look at all the options. So I think that needed to be done. I think, hopefully it will be in the future.
Could I just add to that? I think what's important for us to realize is that we have an aging population, and it's not only the seniors that use the COA today, but the seniors will be using the COA in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and we have to take into account that we may have a much larger senior population at that point. So I think it's important when we do the feasibility study that we take those folks into account as well.
Well, location is always important. One of the other articles in the town meeting warrant is to do with the retail sales of recreational marijuana, and establishing an overlay district. And I wondered, do you want recreational marijuana in town, and anywhere, or where specifically?
Well, for me, I guess, originally I voted against the question for medical marijuana, for non-medical marijuana, but it's passed. The town voted for it, and I think whether we have it in Carver or not, it's going to be accessible to Carver residents. Other towns are going to have it. Where it goes, I think we need to study that as much as we can, and I think extending the moratorium so we can get that done is going to be important. But I do think if we can cite it appropriately, I'm not against having it somewhere in town.
And Sarah?
Well, I too personally voted against the recreational use after talking with the police chief. It's sort of the Police Chiefs Association of Massachusetts just wasn't for it. And so, but as Mark said, the town voted for it. We've been waiting for quite a while to let the State House figure out what they're doing with it, what the regulations are. If we don't cite it somewhere, it will be in violation of the law. So, but that's really a planning board issue, I think. They're the ones who come up with that kind of zoning, and I don't envy them their job. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
Are there other issues you hope the Board of Selectmen will address in the future? Do you have any new ideas you want to present if you are elected, Mark?
Well, I think it's important that my main concerns is that we continue to long-term plan. It seems to me for a long time in Carver that we didn't do that. We lived from year to year, and we were always scrambling to find money to fill holes. And we haven't done that recently, and I think one of the best things we've done is to look forward and to anticipate what's coming. And I think we need to continue to do that. I would like to find money in the budget to maybe help the police department to hire another officer. I think that's important. I think it's important for us to try to find some money to add to the school budget. I think they've taken a number of hits in the last few years, and I think that's important. So are they new things? I'm not sure they're necessarily new, but I think they're very important to the town. And I think going forward, I think that would be my main push.
And Sarah, about you, with the new board, what do you think? Do you have ideas you haven't presented yet, now that some of these bigger issues maybe?
Well, I was just going to kind of address what Mark said there too. I think the planning is really necessary. I mean, when I first came on the planning board, we hadn't done a master plan in 21 years, and that's part of the process. That's not a Board of Selectmen. That's not what they do, but it's a similar idea. It's a really good idea to plan for the future. But I am concerned that at some point we need to remember that one of the things that makes Carver Carver is land use in town, conservation, planning, all of those issues. It's probably the most important thing that makes this town what it is. It gives it its rural character, and that stuff doesn't happen overnight. You need long-term planning, and it's more than just about issuing permits. It's about really, protecting the aquifer, protecting land, and doing it in such a way that the town can still grow economically as well. So that, to me, is very important, and I am very concerned that that those departments don't continue to get short shrift at some point. I think that will become an issue if they do.
Maybe I'll give you a chance to ask each other a question. Sarah, do you have a question you might want to ask Mark? I
hadn't thought of that. No, but Mark's comment about, we did serve on the playground committee together, and the only thing I can actually think of is, how are your children? Because I haven't seen them since they were very young, but that's probably not relevant here.
Well, Sarah, thank you for
You're welcome.
thank you for asking. They're very well, in fact. My son Mark is married, living in Taunton.
Terrific.
Patrick and Colleen are both living in the Portland, Maine area.
Excellent.
And Sean just graduated with his MBA and is working for a startup in Cambridge, and
Excellent.
just loving the commute every day. So,
That's
yeah,
really-
thank you
You're
very much
welcome.
for asking.
You're welcome.
And I guess it's my turn to ask Sarah a question now. And Sarah, I guess we did both serve on the playground committee together. And one of my biggest concerns when I heard the various talk about the COA was that something would impact that playground.
Right.
And I think it's not really a question, but I think you probably feel, as I do, that playground is really important to the town.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess I just ask how you
Yeah,
felt about that.
right. Oh, absolutely, Mark. I mean, I don't have any real statistics on this, but judging, if you drive by there twice a day, even sometimes in the winter, that's probably the most used town facility, maybe next to Town Hall.
Yeah.
It really is. It was worth every penny. And I guess I feel that something bad will happen to it over my dead body. That's how I really feel.
And I would agree with you.
Right,
So
right.
we agree on that.
Right. I mean, our kids helped to build that playground, and it's just and it's for seniors. It's for everyone. You know, people walking dogs. It's just kids. You know, teenagers hang out there on the benches, and it's just been a real asset.
I will say, you asked about my children. I have 3 grandchildren now.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, I know, it seems like a long time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's great to go down there
Mhm.
and you know, play with it and be able to say, hey, you know, we helped build this.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
it's a great feeling. So.
I wanted to ask each of you, where do you see Carver in 5 years and then 10 years?
Well, that's a very big question, because one of the largest landowners in Carver is A.D. Makepeace, and they own a lot of land in Carver. And if they were to build the number of single-family homes that they can today by right, which means they don't need site plan review, they just go get their, you know, they do a Form A, what's called a Form A. You can build out homes down the street, chop, chop, chop. They could build 525 new single-family homes. And as much as I love children, that's another school.
Yes, it is.
And so, you know, that's scary. And I don't mean to single out Makepeace in particular. There are other landowners in town, and you can't fault a landowner for, you know, needing to stay alive, make money. And Makepeace has been a very responsible company. The way what they have developed, they've done it very responsibly. So, but that's, you know, that's a possible concern. It's just a sort of fact, you know, good or bad. It is what it is. I hope that people do move to Carver, though, and stay in town. I'd like to see. We did put some things into the master plan that are trying to encourage apartments above stores. Store owners can do that. If some of our children want to move back to town, it's hard to find something they can afford. You know, you can lead a horse to water, though you can't make them drink. So while it's legal to have apartments over, say, some of the stores in Carver Square Boulevard, I don't know that there are any in there yet. So things like that. I think we need to get some more diverse housing like that, and it has to be done right. It has to respect all the residents. So there's a lot down the road. I do hope it retains its rural character, and that the town continues to do well economically also.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, as I said in my opening statement, my wife and I moved to Carver in 1984, and if you look at what has happened to some other towns on the South Shore since 1984, you know, take a look at Route 53 and that area. I would hope that we can, when I talk about planning and being forward-looking, it's not really a Board of Selectmen item, it's more of a planning board item, but I think we need to plan very carefully for Carver. We need to cite what commercial growth we can attract to town carefully. because we don't want Route 58 to turn into Route 53. I don't. And I think that certainly would harm the rural character of the town. So I think, I keep going back to planning, but I just think it's so important that we continue to look forward and not get caught off guard by things.
Okay, thank you. I think we might just move on to closing arguments, closing statements. Mark, you want to go first this time?
Thank you, Catherine and Sarah.
Thank you.
And Area 58, thank you all for putting this together, and thank everyone out there for watching. You know, the town of Carver faces a number of challenges, including building a new police station, putting together a feasibility study committee for the Council on Aging. None of these issues are simple, and we need to work together as a town and as a team on the Board of Selectmen to find solutions to these issues. That's why I believe my experience on the Finance Committee and on other boards in town is so important. I pledge to you to listen to all sides of arguments and all viewpoints before I make any decisions on the Board of Selectmen. Again, my name is Mark Townsend, and I would ask for one of your votes on April 28th. Thank you.
And Sarah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Area 58 and Mark. Sometimes public service means standing up for what you believe is right, standing up for the good of the people you represent. I've done that time and time again. My mother was a missionary in Japan after World War II, before I was born, and she taught me what it means to be a public servant. I moved over 30 times before my husband and I settled in Carver 26 years ago to start a business and raise our family. I'm never leaving because I love this town, and that's why I'm asking for your vote for Selectmen Saturday, April 28th from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Carver Middle High School. I'm Sarah Hewins. Thank you for listening.
Well, thank you both very much. Yes, Sarah mentioned the 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on April 28th. It's a Saturday. But first, don't forget to go to town meeting, 6:30 p.m. next Tuesday, that's the 24th, and the Carver Middle High School auditorium. Thank you very much.